So this is the second video that I'm doing so far for, I guess you could say it's like a new series of sorts that I'm doing right now, talking about the Endgame of Wano. And we did a video on Luffy, and this is of course Zoro's video. And I'm gonna go over the details on what I think is gonna happen when it comes to Zoro at the end of Wano. And the main reason why I'm doing this is because right now in the story, the latest chapter is chapter 972. And Chad Den has just passed away in the flashback. Now, I believe that we're gonna be ending off this flashback relatively soon. We'll see in the chapters to come. And then once that happens, basically real time, it is en route, it is coming. And we're excited because real time, even though Chad Den is a beast of a character, and he's to me pretty damn dope, and that death was pretty damn beastly, all right? Once again, I am Oden. That was damn dope. And I'm looking forward to the anime for Chad Den for damn sure. The thing about it here is that we care obviously a lot more about the real-time characters, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and the Straw crew, rather than, you know, flashback characters. But at the same time, Kozuki Oden, aka Chad Den, is a very important figure because he's the core reason why we're here in Wano country in the first place. Duh. With that being said, I want to get deeper into what's going to go on with Zoro after the flashback, at the end of Wano, and then potentially after Wano. Here's the thing. It's not necessarily Zoro's arc. Like, last arc with Hoki Island was Sanji's arc, so there were major themes focused around Sanji, and Sanji got his shine. And even in Act 2 with the Raid Suit, he got a tremendous amount of shine as well there. But Wano Country is not as Zoro themed as I would like it to be. Because I remember at the end of Zoro was saying that he was going to lead samurai by the time Luffy got there, like he would round them all up or something. Unfortunately, in the Prisoner of Minds, the person to do that is Luffy, not Zoro. There is, I guess, time. There's room for that. There is potentially some things that Zoro can do that will really help bolster his character in the future. And I'm really hoping that Oda does these things, but we'll have to wait and see. So, let's dive right into it. My man, Roronoa Zoro. So unlike Luffy, and this is very important, unlike Luffy, Zoro's primary concern right now is the samurai and Orochi side of things rather than the beast pirate Kaido side of things, because he wants to avenge Yasue. And in the manga, you do get a sense for that, obviously. But in the anime, you get an even better sense. And so I recommend, I understand, as manga readers, we shift more towards, obviously, the manga rather than the anime. But the anime has been doing a very good job. They even show the entire Yasue stuff with Zoro in the gambling scene, and that was done very well. As well as, I think, have a much better showing of the village scene when Yasue and Zoro arrive at the village, and he sees all the folks smiling despite their condition. So, most of the events that Zoro is going to be centered around for the immediate future will be the samurai side of things. Somehow, some way, whether he gets lost, he's gonna wind up initially on the samurai side of things and the samurai conflict rather than the Kaido conflict. Again, initially. It'll probably be for, I would say, most of the arc, but come the end of the arc, we'll have to wait and see. The second thing, very similar to Sanji and Page 1, I can see Zoro fighting against a Tobiropo or a number or a powerful samurai, let's say a member of the Mimoarigumi, where he's gonna get a new feel for his mighty new blade, Enma. Yeah. And he's gonna be rocking Enma pretty hard, getting used to Enma in combat, and we get a clear sense as readers as to, or we get a better sense as to how powerful he is with Enma. Just how with the Raid Suit, we saw how powerful Sanji was with someone like a Tobiropo, who is probably comparable to, like, let's say, Drake. And in the case of Enma, we're going to see that against a number, a Mimoarigumi or a Tobiropo, whatever Oda wants to choose to do. It's going to be essentially Zoro's Blue Note. That's going to happen. And I think because of this, what we're going to see is Zoro have greater arm and hockey control because of how Enma works. Because Enma kind of forces you to overutilize your hockey, Zoro's gonna have to learn how to control his hockey better. And so at some point, we may see somehow, some way, I'm not sure how Oda's gonna do it. It could be a barrier thing around his sword, but I'm not too sure about that right now. but we may see some distinct changes to where Zoro's armor haki and his armor haki hardening are far superior after using Enma repeatedly. So that's number 2. He's gonna have a Blue No 5 sorts, absolutely. Now the next thing, this would be really, really damn good for Zoro. This would be fantastic. I would love to see Zoro do this. I would like for Zoro to teach Momo a sword technique. That would be flames, man. I'm telling you. Zoro teaching Momo a sword technique, let's say before Momo fights somebody, because I believe he will. I believe Momo is gonna fight somebody. It may sound ridiculous, but hold on. Oda was mentored by Nobuhiro Watsuki, the author of Rurouni Kenshin. And there is a character in that show called Yahiko. And Yahiko, in some respects, incorporates Kenshin's moves. And Yahiko does fight somebody of, like not somebody like insignificant. And it's a pretty intriguing fight. So I think it's very possible that in this case, Zoro is Kenshin and Momo is Yahiko, where either Momo has been watching Zoro use his techniques or Zoro's gonna flat out teach Momo something. I would rather the latter, because I like the idea tremendously of Zoro taking like a mentorship role with Momonosuke. That would be so good. That would be so dope, man. So Zoro, I think teaching Momo would be a great thing. I hope Oda actually does that. If it doesn't happen, it sucks, honestly. I would say a missed opportunity. But at the same time, if Momo is, let's say, going to be a cabin boy, like how Shanks and Buggy were for Roger, then okay, fine, fair enough. Because then there'll be some room there, I guess, to teach Momo. I guess in theory, Momo could learn from both Zoro and Brook. But mainly Zoro, please. Mainly Zoro. So hopefully that happens in the future. We'll have to wait and see how that rolls. Now the next thing. I've said before in the Luffy Wano Endgame video that Luffy is probably going to lose to Kaido for the second round. And then there'll be a third round. So the Fire Festival is going to happen, and then Luffy's going to meet Kaido again, and then he's going to lose again. And I think something is going to happen with Luffy that's going to mimic Oden in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not an execution, but something with Luffy is going to mimic Oden, because the parallels between Luffy and Oden are very, very strong. And the same thing goes for the Scabbards. The Scabbards are the representation of a Strat crew that lost Luffy. So I can see Zoro and the other Straw Hats playing a role in saving Luffy in a situation where Luffy's life is on the line, mimicking Oden, where in Oden's case, the Scabbards could not save Oden, but the Straw Hats will. So the Straw Hats will do what the Scabbards could not, or maybe even would not do. Something of that sort. Now that could be a stretch, but the thing here is, I believe that Act 3 has more meat to it. I really do. And I think that in Act 3, there's enough space to, even in Act 4, like let's say if Act 3 ends or after the flashback, even in Act 4, there's enough space, if it's a long enough act, to cover all this stuff with Luffy being defeated again. Because in a Kabuki play, when it comes to the 5 acts, one of these acts is a very long act, whether it's Act 3 or Act 4. So Act 2 and Act 1 are not the longest acts on paper in a natural Kabuki play. So I would say that the meat potatoes are coming real soon. And that's enough space for Zoro and the crew to save Luffy when Luffy's in danger of dying. Boom. Now the next thing here, the fights. Zoro potentially can have a lot of fights in Wano Country because there's so many different opponents to face, obviously. Like, excluding the Blue No fight that he's probably going to have against, again, either Tobiropo, a Number, or a Mimari Gumi. Now, the two main fight routes are this. Number 1, Zoro fights Kyoshiro, who stands in his way to Orochi. And after that, he fights against King the Wildfire. Now, King the Wildfire may not be a one-on-one fight, because in all honesty, Zoro has not beaten an opponent in the entirety of the pre-time skip that is as strong as Virgo. So that power jump from never facing someone as strong as Virgo to then beating someone like King one-on-one is a bit sketchy. However, they got power-ups for a reason, and I suppose, given, again, Oda's time frame of end the story in 5 years, plus them getting power-ups, so, you know, Zoro and Sanji the Reitsu, and Zoro and Enma, and then maybe later on the Nikatetsu, then you can say it does make some sense. But understand that it is a power creep. It doesn't make much sense for Zoro to really beat King one-on-one, considering how Zoro has always been weaker than Luffy, and Luffy was struggling tremendously against both Katakuri and Doflamingo. So it makes no sense for Luffy to struggle with those kind of guys, and yet Zoro, even after power-up, to just wholesale beat King one-on-one. That's kind of crazy. But again, I guess with the power-ups, you can say maybe. Again, it's that Oda power creep, so the other characters can catch up to Luffy, because Luffy's so far ahead. And the Straw Hats, in particular Zoro and Sanji, haven't had any major fights in the entirety of the time skip, with the exception of like Fishman Island, you can argue. And then also note how, because Zoro has Wado Ichimonji, Enma and Wado Ichimonji were made by the same Shimotsuki individual. And because of that, Zoro's getting a better feel, so he's actually accelerating when it comes to his growth with Enma, because Wado Ichimonji and Enma were made by the same individual. Again, the power creep. The power creep, obviously Oda, he's trying to make it make sense that Zoro is this strong, if he does beat King one-on-one. Now, I would like it if it was actually like a 2v1, whether it be a Sanji and Zoro against King. That would be dope, because it's been like, since what? Since the Groggy Monsters? Since Foxy? Have you actually gotten a tag team of Zoro and Sanji? It's been a minute, like a genuine tag team. But again, that depends on Oda. But in this first route, Zoro has 2 main fights, which is fine because Zoro and Skypiea had 2 fights. He fought against Braham first, and after he fought against Ohm. So he had 2 main fights in Skypiea too. So it can happen here in Wano, why not? Now, the second route for fights would be if Zoro's only main fight is Kyoshiro, and Kyoshiro is the real deal. If Kyoshiro is a beast, he's the real deal, like no holds barred, not messing around, like I am the OD, the samurai.
Nobody messes with the samurai.
Oh, okay. So it's been a long time since Zoro had a solid one-on-one samurai duel, and in this case, obviously, we're talking about Ryoma. Ryoma and Zoro is a really damn good fight. I would argue it's probably second only to Mihawk and Zoro. That's more because of obviously sentimental reasons. But if you look at the actual choreography and how it's orchestrated between Ryoma and Zoro, that's a damn good fight. This would be enhanced. This whole Kyoshiro is the main fight. This would be enhanced if Marco shows up, because I can see Marco taking on King one-on-one. I can see Marco taking on King one-on-one. That would be a phenomenal fight. And then Zoro needs a very good opponent, which could be Kyoshiro if Kyoshiro's the real deal. And again, the beauty of it is that if that's the case, then you know that Oda's gonna put a lot of oomph and gusto into the samurai duel that Zoro's gonna have. If Zoro has a nice samurai duel and then fights against, you know, King later on, okay, it's nice and all, but it's gonna mitigate the samurai duel. So if the main opponent's a samurai, that's gonna be fire. Now, there is a branch of that where, let's say Kyoshiro, he's actually not the real deal, where he's a good guy, where he's gonna help him out. Because a lot of folks, and I believe so too, Kyoshiro is probably going to flake. I've said it repeatedly. Kyoshiro, there's a good chance that the man could flake. Hawkins can flake, obviously. Kyoshiro can flake, obviously. Drake, he was never a part of the squad. So, cats are going to be flaking from Kaido's forces left, right, and center. Is there still a chance that Zoro can have this epic, crazy samurai duel? The answer is yes. Let's say, and this is a stretch, obviously, because Oda's been inconsistent when it comes to the samurai. You know, I'm sorry, that's a lot. The samurai, aside from Kyoshiro, suck. When it comes to the enemy samurai, they suck. However, we do have the Mimawari Gumi. And the Mimawari Gumi, if the captain is, let's say, the guy we saw with the glasses, like the shades, if he's a beast, if he's an actual beast of a dude,
hey,
then instead of Kyoshiro, have him. Because the Mimorigumi are the ones that were supposed to protect Kyoto back in the day. And so in this case, if they're protecting the flower capital of Wano country, you would hope that he's a beast. Again, you would only hope. I just really want to have, more than anything in this arc, a genuine full-on sword samurai duel with Zoro against a beastly samurai. It makes no sense for there to be no powerful samurai in Wano country when you have people like a Kainu tell Kizaru, no, Kizaru, don't try and intervene between Big Mom and Kaido, because number one, obviously, you'll turn to a homie. But then number two is the fact that Akainu stopped Kizaru because the threat of the samurai was still a mystery. It was still a veil. We don't know how powerful the samurai are. But wait a minute, we haven't seen a single powerful samurai in Wano country with the exception of Kyoshiro. So, again, I would hope, genuinely so, that there is a powerful samurai. I'm hoping that Kyoshiro is the real deal, and he can actually be a final opponent for Zoro. If Marco comes, because I want to see Marco and King. I really want to see Marco and King. But, if not him, let's say again he's an ally, then make the captain of the Mimorigumi, they got the shades, or a new character. Just introduce a broken-ass samurai. This will be really good too. If there was a broken samurai in Wano country and there was a woman. Okay, you see, if Oda really wanted to take Zoro to like the next level when it comes to being a good character, he could if it was a female, that would be some really good stuff. Because in that internal conflict of Kuina comes back again in Zoro's mind as he's fighting some very powerful, like the best samurai in Wano is a female. But Oda hasn't touched upon any of that. If there is a strong swordsman aside from Kyoshiro, we haven't gotten that yet either. So at this point in time, I can only hope. I can really only hope. Now there are other options when it comes to Zoro fight routes. One is actually a main one, which would be Zoro versus King, just straight up, like after the Blue Note, because Zoro is gonna Blue Note somebody for goddamn sure. It'll be Zoro against King. Again, that to me is not necessarily the best option. Like, it'd be kind of dope to have, again, like a Zoro and Sanji versus King, or Zoro and Killer versus King. But if it's just Zoro versus King, I'll take that. But the power creep is very obvious, and it's kind of hard to believe. Again, Zoro has always been weaker than Luffy. Now, there's the possibility that King is weaker than Katakuri, despite the difference in bounty, which would help mitigate that sense of disbelief. So if Zoro does beat him one-on-one, it's a little more believable. And in the Vivid cards, I think it is noted that Zoro was getting a bit stronger by fighting samurai, but when we actually see Wano, like, Zoro is fighting nobody because it's supposed to be, you know, stealth, keep it on the down low, like don't get exposed. So Zoro's just chilling drinking sake the entire time as far as we know. So it's a bit odd, honestly. Like, essentially, you would assume, I suppose, that Zoro did get stronger over the course of the time where we didn't see Zoro, but at the same time, Luffy has been genuinely training his haki to like the next stages and actually skipped a step when it came to Hyogoro. So I'll take it. I guess I'll just have to accept it for what it is if Oda actually takes it that route. But at the end of the day...
right?
It is not going to be the samurai duel that I think Oda has envisioned for Zoro. Again, he used to work for the author that did Rurouni Kenshin. I'm expecting like a Kenshin versus Saito. Like if you've never seen Kenshin versus Saito, look that up. It's a freaking damn good fight. And I was expecting for Zoro to have a Kenshin versus Saito, but King, he has a sword, yeah, but he also has an ancient Zoan ability. It's not a pure swordsman duel. Like in Wano country, for Zoro to not have a genuine all-out pure swordsman duel is an absolute missed opportunity when it comes to fights, 100%. However, that is an option, obviously. And then from there, folks have said weird things like Zoro versus Smoothie, because Smoothie has the sword. So potentially Zoro's a Smoothie, and I guess Oda could try and do the whole female swordsman thing there with Smoothie, but she also uses a devil fruit. But I highly doubt that Oda will take that approach. And then, of course, there are folks saying that Zoro's gonna fight only Orochi, because Orochi was able to take Zeus's attack and be relatively fine, as far as we know. So maybe Orochi actually isn't a scrub. He has a mythical zone for a reason. And instead of like the scabbards like Kinemon or Kanjiro or whoever doing something, and then that being like a main fight for them, Zoro could be the main fight for Orochi. Because we do know that Zoro, his main focus is taking revenge for Yasue. And Hiri wants revenge on Orochi, obviously, as does Momo. Duh, they all do. So Zoro can play a role in that too. And Orochi's actually a beast. I mean, his defense, again with the whole Nami thing, seems to be relatively good. So I guess, I mean, it's weird. I'm not really too sure on Orochi being the final guy for Zoro, or like the main fight for Zoro. He could be a main fight, maybe, but I need to see Orochi do something. Like something impressive. Like not just shoot a CP0 guy with a gun. I need to see him do actual work before I can say that's an actual main fight. So the main routes, the three of them, once again for review, would be Kyoshiro and King, just Kyoshiro or another powerful samurai of some sort, or just fight King. And these are all going to be after a Bluno number or Tobiropo or some of that sort that Zoro is going to pretty much take care of, just so we can see how strong Zoro is. The next point. At some point, Zoro is going to replace the Sandai for the Nidai. And it is also possible, let's say that the main fights for Zoro are Kyoshiro and King. It is also possible that the Sandai can break at the hands of either Kyoshiro or King, okay? In Thriller Bark, Ryoma, or Brook Ryoma, I should say, had a technique where he could break sword. And even though hockey is a means of coating your swords to try and prevent your swords from breaking, it's not an end-all be-all, because it depends on how strong the attacks they're facing are. So obviously you can still break someone's sword if their sword's coated in hockey. If your power is overwhelming, duh. So, or if your technique is that good, duh. So there was a moment where Brook Ryoma does like a sword volley thrust technique, and it's a technique that can actually break through swords, and Zoro actually noticed that. So I would like to see if there's gonna be a genuine samurai sword duel, or maybe even King has very good swordsmanship. I would like to see that come into play somehow, some way, where the Sandai breaks in the middle of a sword duel, and then he has to get the Nidai to replace the Sandai, therefore getting Zoro another power-up. So that is something that is of course very headcanon-y, but I think be very, very dope. Now, the last 2 points for the end of Wano is if Orochi does die, Zoro, somehow, some way, will be there to see it, for avenging Yasue and so on, alright? He won't be the one to actually do it. It'll be either, let's say, Momo or Hiri, or like, I don't know, some kind of freak thing, like Orochi starts to freak out and then he runs away and then somehow kills himself, like, I don't know, like some debris falls on him, I don't know, or it could pull some crap like that. But if Orochi is going to die, I believe that Zoro is going to be there to, you know, witness Orochi's death. And then finally, this part is a mega huge stretch, considering what we saw in the flashback, right? But since there is a quote-unquote legend of Enma cutting Kaido, right? Even though it was both swords in the flashback. It wasn't just Enma, it was also the Omnibikiri, but whatever, okay. Because there is the legend of Enma cutting Kaido, Zoro could cut Kaido too. So after all the samurai stuff is done, and let's say, you know, Luffy, Kid, and Law, or Drake, whoever, they're still fighting against Kaido. Zoro can come in there, you know, Itoriu, yeah! And then, okay, there we go. And then all the Zoro fanboys, yeah. I mean, look, I'm a Zoro fanboy too, but that to me is a bit excessive, you know, considering it's Kaido, and Oden, I would argue easily, is more powerful than Zoro now, duh. But, if it happens, alright, fine, it happens. I just think it's pretty ridiculous. I think it is pretty ridiculous. I would say that he's already killed one Dragonflick Hazard. Folks want another dragon for whatever reason. Orochi's a kind of a dragon, or at least he's a mythical lizard of some kind. So just give him Orochi. Now, the next thing. This is gonna be after Wano, but it could also apply to the end of Wano too. It all depends on what it wants to do. So immediately after Wano, I feel like we're gonna finally get Zoro's ties to the Shimotsuki clan. They will be revealed in full. Again, I'm saying after Wano because it could be someone, let's say, Hiri knows something, and then let's say she writes on a letter of some kind, and then it's on the Sunny Go, or like she gives to Zoro. Zoro doesn't realize until he's on the ship and like they're going elsewhere, you know? And then he reads the letter, and it's like, oh yeah, like apparently according to Hiri, Shimotsuki clan, or and so on and so on. You know, who knows? Because I think Tengama mentioned something about Hiri noticing something about Zoro and his swordsmanship or something, which is why she decided on Enma. I forget the actual details of that, but a lot of us are expecting Zoro to have ties to, of course, the Shimotsuki clan, and it's gonna happen at some point. I honestly believe that. Just when, who the hell knows? Therefore, for now, I'll say like after Wano, and also after Wano as well. But it could also apply to Wano, and it all depends on the time frame here. Hawkins had a comment in chapter 913 where he states, and I quote, "The cards say your probability of being alive 1 month from now is 19%. The anime, as far as I recall, is clearer, where it's probably Luffy rather than Zoro, but it still could maybe be Zoro. So I'm just gonna put it out there so you guys remember. After this is a very, 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 very big might, maybe, probably not happening, but if it happens, I'm not all that surprised, which is, of course, the Black Blade. The Black Blade, people. After all of these major fights and Zoro struggles and learning better arm and Haki, Ryo, it's possible that Zoro's Wano Ichimonji turns into a Black Blade. But this is a tremendous might. Why? Because number one, according to Benki, Ryoma forged his Black Blade through the various battles he had over his lifetime. And part of those battles, we know, was defending Wano country against pirates. Because back in the day, Wano country was very similar to Jaya, you can say, where there was a large abundance of gold in Wano country, like El Dorado. And he was defending Wano country from pirates that wanted that gold. So a very similar situation to, like, let's say, Kalgara in the Norland and Kalgara flashback. However, we also know that from the wanted short stories that Oda did, the one for monsters, number 4, that Ryoma, he did cut down that dragon, and he had a title that he wasn't aware of, and that was having the world's greatest warrior soul. So it's a very intriguing thing where we're still not exactly sure how you forge a Black Blade, but we do know at least in One Piece, he is known as the Sword God. So he is probably the greatest swordsman in the history of Wano country. So from a power standpoint, it is safe to say that Zoro is far from the Sword God title, and the closest person would be Mihawk. And then on top of that, in other translations, I think it's also stated that Ryoma attained the Black Blade either when he was at the end of his lifetime or near death. That's number 1. And then number 2, it is not confirmed if Mihawk turned Yoru into a Black Blade. We know that Mihawk wields a Black Blade, but we don't know if Mihawk was the one to actually turn Yoru into a Black Blade. So Black Blades are a mega ultra mystery of the sword, okay? We don't know exactly how you create a Black Blade, okay? But if it were to happen at the end of Wano for Zoro, it would have to be Wano Ichimonji, where, let's say, because of his struggles, ever since he got the blade from Kuina, and then being a bounty hunter for all those years and training his own sword style and so on and so forth, boom, he meets the qualifications somehow, some way to make the sword to a Black Blade. Whatever happens, happens, okay? Again, it's a mega ultra big mystery when it comes to the formation of the Black Blade. Clearly, obviously it is, but it still could happen because in my headcanon, I believe that Zoro with the Wano Ichimonji, Enma, and Nidai at the end of the story, he will wield 3 Black Blades. The last 2 points real quick is that At the end of Wano, after Wano, Zoro's bounty will probably be in the high 100 millions or over $1 billion. This depends on a lot of things, like whether he can solo commander or not, you know, cutting Kaido, and then how the people of Wano, very important, it's also how the folks of Wano view Zoro as well. The folks have to be able to see this stuff, and then where else to spread? Because right now, there are no Marines in Wano country, aside from like, you know, the guys that infiltrate like Drake. So we're not too sure how it's gonna spread exactly, but this stuff should be like big news. So people are like, yo, like this guy Zoro, he's such a great samurai, like one of the best in the entire history of Wano and so on and so forth. So obviously there's a lot of factors in play here. Keep in mind that when it comes to certain Yonko, their bounties exceed their commanders by a large margin. So I'm going to assume like at least over $1 billion, but for now, on the safe side, let's just say high 100s of millions. So 800, 900, 700, whatever it's gonna be, his bounty will raise probably by over double at the bare minimum, I would argue. And then finally, the last point, Zoro will be able to, at the bare minimum, on the safe side, beat a 3rd division commander at least, okay? At least he'll be able to beat a 3rd division commander. This all depends, again, on a lot of those factors, and there's that power creep, so we can't necessarily guarantee that he can be, but again, recognize that Luffy had to struggle. Oh, Katakuri beat Luffy like 3 or 4 times, and he's a 1st division commander. And Cracker had Luffy's number, and he's a 3rd division commander. So let's see how this plays out. It's very possible that the Big Mom Pirate commanders could be stronger than the Beast Pirate ones. It's possible, but let's see how that rolls. Because bounty, of course, is not like the end-all build for power. It all depends, really, on the context of Zoro's fights throughout the entirety of Wano. Therefore, to be on the safe side of things, Zoro will be able to beat a 3rd division commander by the end of Wano, after Wano, guaranteed. But 2nd and 1st, let's wait and see how those fights play out. The power creep is one thing, but I'll prefer for moments like Zoro teaching Momo. These are the moments that I think are far more valuable than Zoro either fighting against, let's say, Kyoshiro as the main guy, captain of the Mimari Gumi, or King. Because at the end of the day, we know for sure that Zoro's gonna fight somebody strong, obviously. But the character element is what I'm concerned about the most in this case. Out of all the things that I mentioned, that is by far the #1 thing I want to see. Just Zoro teaching Momo. That would be just fantastic. But that's it. Once again, let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. Be sure to rate the video. It is not that hard to do because I guarantee you that, because I know that you all have a device called Zmausu. You use Zmausu to click, rate the video, to click, subscribe, to click on that bell on the squad. And of course, as always, feel free to please do comment in the comment section down below. Peace and have a nice goddamn day.